we just begin though with a quick going through, and if everybody could just say briefly just your name and maybe your position and what school district you're with. And if you are new to us, please write your email address over in the chat, because I have I've got a running Excel spreadsheet of contact, because I know not everybody is on Friends of Family Education. And so just like if you got my reminder email, then that's what pretty much that list is for. So Naomi, would you start?
Sure. I'm Naomi Huso. I'm parent educator out of Wayzata.
Great.
My name is Julia Roda, and I'm actually an early childhood educator out of Inver Grove Heights.
Wonderful. Thank you, Julia.
I'm Shelley Doran. I'm a parent educator in District 196. I do early childhood as well, just not the last couple of years. I've just been full-time parent ed.
Great.
I'm Sarah Hansen, and I'm up in northern Minnesota at St. Louis County Schools in Tower and Babbitt, and also teach in Ely.
Wonderful.
Parent ed.
I'm Angela Sandock. I'm parent educator and supervisor of ECFE here at Hopkins.
I'm Jennifer Wenner. I am parent educator at Minnetonka.
Okay, I have to interrupt. Jennifer, are you new to Minnetonka?
Yes, I joined at the beginning of this past school year. So I work with Stacy and Sarah and Linda and that crew. Yes.
Oh, awesome.
And Angela, do you have a connection to Minnetonka?
I worked there last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'd heard about an Angela, and so I was wondering whether. Hi, Angela.
Hi.
Me too.
Yeah, I moved over to Hopkins. Just it's closer to it's closer.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Full-time job opened up. I'm like, okay.
Yep. Well, thank you. It worked out nicely for me.
That's
so.
a good district too. Yeah, good.
Yeah, it's great.
Jenica, as I'm looking at your name again, of course I know you. Like, it's just been a really long time.
Yes.
Right. So would you introduce yourself?
Sure, yep. So I'm Jenica Urbis-Spohr. I'm a parent educator with the Lakeville Area School District.
Wonderful. And Carly and Ellen, we're just going around and everybody's just saying who they are. So welcome.
Hi guys, sorry, I'm all sweaty. I just came in from working in the yard, so I'm not really fit to be on a screen, but hi. Also, I need to make some lunch, so I'll be listening, but not on camera.
Okay. And Ellen, who are you?
Oh, hi. I'm sorry, I missed that part. I'm a parent educator in Northfield in the ECFE program.
Thank you. And Carly?
Hi, I'm a parent educator in the Robbinsdale area schools, and I have done some subbing and work with Hopkins School, ECFE too.
Wow, all these connections. Terrific. Well, we'll just open the floor. Does anybody have anything you'd like to begin asking the group? Any burning questions about your summer planning or your fall?
I have a ton of questions, but I guess the one that we are working on right now is just kind of more around the mental health. I was asked, I just came off a meeting, but I was just asked resources around mental health and for families as well as staff, and if there has been any discussion within any other school districts around how we can best support our families and staff. Because this is all taking a very large toll emotionally, physically on a lot of people. And so I would love to gather any resources or information that are ideas that you all have around that.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And I'll just welcome Greta, Greta Nelson. So Greta, just as you're coming in, Angela, who's from Hopkins, was just asking about mental health resources for parents and for staff. And Greta is in Chisago, Asante? No, in close, right? The Asante, you're muted. There you go.
Cambridge, Isani.
That's it.
There it is.
Yes.
You got it. It's close.
Yeah, I knew there was
We're north. That's it.
Wonderful. So, what are your school districts doing around mental health needs of families and the staff? Uh-oh.
Well, I'm not sure we've done anything specifically about it yet. It's definitely been a conversation that we've had. We had a lot of families really struggle this spring for a variety of reasons, and a lot of them were mental health. And we've talked about that. You know, we're not mental health therapists, and we don't really know how to meet those needs. So it's definitely a conversation we're having. So I mean, I don't really have any great answers except for we've talked a lot about it. I know for a couple of my families, I referred them to the elementary schools, people that were working in there, and made that connection. But I think we're going to probably have to do something where we can help a little bit easier than that was, because that was kind of a long process. So no answer except for we've talked a lot about it.
Angela, have you guys reached out to St. David's at all? I know they're not terribly far from you, and I know that they're doing some work around mental health. With Wayzata, we have Interfaith Outreach, which is a nonprofit organization that can partner some of our families with Relate and a few other mental health people. And so we've kind of made those connections with organizations outside the district. We do have 2 social workers, one for just general families within early ed, and then we have our social worker who works with the Birth to 3 program. And so we kind of stay connected with all of them, but I don't think St. David's is terribly far from you guys, and just maybe reaching out to them and seeing what they have. We just recently heard from them, I feel like a couple of months ago, and I have a bunch of notes somewhere on my desk, but I know they're doing some stuff.
No, that's a really good idea. I hadn't thought of them. And we used to, in our early childhood programs last year, just as of last year, we had an on-site St. David's representative helping support a lot of our families. Excuse me. So that's a really good resource that I'll reach out to. Appreciate that. I guess, has anybody, I know I've seen some talking points around how to practice mindfulness and meditation through all of this and that kind of stuff. I guess I'd be curious to know what are people's opinions around what they see is helpful for kids, birth to 5.
Well, back to the first question a little bit. I did share in like our weekly emails resources about regional mental health services, as well as unemployment access, stuff like that. And then in terms of the mindfulness question, to back up. So I sent those links weekly with our other information, just so that people had it coming each week if they needed it, because things are changing all the time for families. And also on Facebook, sharing that in our group information links. But in terms of mindfulness, in conversations with families, I've certainly shared links to free mindfulness apps or meditation related apps if they've asked. I haven't directly shared that in like my group mass emails, but there's a few different like Insight Timer and 10% Happier. Those are both have free sections to them. They also have sections that you can pay for. And the 10% Happier this spring had really nice series of conversations in the 2 o'clock hour for Minnesota time that were 20 to 25 minutes with a 5-minute meditation that introduced people. So that was one resource that if it came up, I shared with people.
And this might have been shared on the Facebook page too, but I know that 1,000 Petals has a Move Mindfully. They have some free things too that that they send out. So I think you just have to put your email in and they just send you an email. That are some of them I've linked to emails I've sent to or given to parents through Seesaw. Just some little exercises for them to teach their kids and do with their kids. So then it helps with connection and their ability to cope and calm and things like that. But they're free too. And I think it's 1,000 Petals is the website.
Okay. Julie, did you say that your teachers did weekly Seesaw exercises or sent them out? Is that what they did?
Not weekly, but so every week I sent something out. It wasn't always a move mindfully or a breathing exercise. Sometimes it was an activity, but every once in a while, or if I'd stumble upon something that I thought I just wanted the parents to see, I would send that to them. We didn't, so our parent eds are doing some Zoom classes, and a lot of them, they weren't something that they advertised in a book. It was just kind of sent out an email, and they were open-ended classes that they could take kind of just for support, like a safety net, and here we are. And then they would do an exercise or a tip for parents too.
Yeah, we did something similar, and we gave we would hand out preschool golden nuggets kind of for families, something to focus on for a week or so. So yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
I included links in the chat for you guys to check out. In Robbinsdale, our early childhood special ed team, in collaboration with ECFE, created what's called the Calming Zone, and there's one for more geared for adults and then one more geared towards children. But there's lots of different activities around mindfulness, breathing, coloring pages, all kinds of things to support mind, body, mental health. So you're welcome to check those out and share them. And so we had posted those via our early childhood Facebook page and also via email to families and our weekly newsletter, and circulated those links widely.
Our school district did that too. They posted a calming room on our school page that the kids could link on or go into, and parents too. That was pretty cool. I didn't even think about something like that, and then they came and told us, and it's kind of nice.
Yeah, our district did that as well. Had a calming zone and had like lots of visual things that people could watch and different things that kids could do, and right on the district website for everybody.
Who spearheaded that? Like, who was that? School psychs? Was it?
I don't know. I didn't know about it until about midway through the spring. And then someone mentioned it. And so like, I didn't get the information that it was there until about midway through. But then it was pretty in-depth with lots of great information and some resources.
That's a great idea.
I'm sure it's still up. It's on District 196 under COVID resources. It's called the Calming Room. It's just good to look at anyway.
I'm just wondering who I have to bother to get that added to our district site. I'll do some emailing today.
I'm out there. I'm out on ours looking for something like that too. I don't even know if we have anything. So maybe it's already out there and I didn't even know about it. I'm glad you guys are sharing this. Thanks.
I found it. There we go. I found your, Shelley, I found your District 196 calming room.
Great. Yeah, there's a bunch of good stuff on there.
How about for you all? What what kinds of things has your district done for you as staff, or have you done for yourself that you'd recommend to each other?
Our district provides the OMADA. I don't know if anybody has the access to the OMADA. It's like health coaching and whatnot. I don't qualify for it because I don't do health benefits through the district. So, but I do know they sent that out very early on when we went to distance learning as an opportunity for, and I think it's very similar to these calming rooms, but it had some mindfulness and meditation apps. But it was available through healthcare, through the healthcare portal online. But again, not all of us are full-time and get those benefits. So,
so you're on your own.
Well, I think that brings up a good question though, too, because we have a lot of paras, we have a lot of assistants, we have a lot of part-timers that we really are going to be needing to call on come the fall in different ways. And they should too also benefit, or they should also benefit from these things that keep us sane. So it's a good thing to think about.
How do you feel about the resources you've been given? I mean, I'll just speak for me. Again, I'm not on the community level, but from the university, you know, it seems like it's more kind of what you've described of, you know, from like health and wellness. It's more like static information about things that you can do. And so it's on you. And then, but then there's also a bit of a stream through messaging from administration around the value of your mental health. So, I mean, that's like two separate things, right? Because we can throw resources at people, but then there's also kind of what we say to them that also evokes our sense of value for these things, and that kind of importance. And you know, and it's okay. You know, I wouldn't argue with it that it's anything bad, but you know, but it's okay. For me, it's a little bit more something we talked about a bit last week is more kind of the structural things, like what are you as administrators, kind of maybe what are you doing to help bring my stress level down, you know, as opposed to just giving me tips on how I can manage my mental health. So I'm just curious from your standpoint, especially since Angela asked related to staff as well, how it feels for you in terms of the resources that you've gotten or resources you might need.
I know in our district, when we were still in session, the paras, you know, they got to keep their hours for the remainder of the school year. And one of the things that they had the option to do was clock 1 hour of exercise for pay. And that was part of their options for things to do with the hours that they had to fill with different trainings and things. And not necessarily we were given a resource, but at least for those that were looking for things to do, I felt like the district kind of said, like, your physical well-being is also important, and so we'll, you know, pay you for that as well. I mean, within moderation, but
a little piece that I did
and this was at the recommendation of my coordinator, but she recommended that I talk to the school psychologists at the ALC and our early childhood program. Because, I'm by myself in my district, and, I have no one to talk to. So talking to them was really surprisingly good for my mental health, because a lot of times my classes felt like such a dumpster fire, and I just felt like I kept saying, yeah, that's really hard. Yeah, that's really hard. And all these platitudes. And I didn't feel like I was doing a darn bit of good and making families feel better. So just talking to them, and they were saying, yeah, you can't always, I felt like I needed to make it better. And I think a lot of the struggle I had this spring was when parents are having an issue, my child won't pee on the potty. Well, try these things, and one day they'll pee on the potty, and my child won't eat, and we'll keep trying this, and one day your child might eat. I can't send my child to daycare so I can go to work, and I'm working from home, and I'm schooling my other children. And I'm like, I got nothing for you. So it just felt really good to hear from the school psychologist, like, you can't fix everything, Ellen, and it's okay. But that was huge for me to just sit back and say, okay, I can't solve everything. And I was surprised at how that made me feel a lot better about what I was doing. And I'm seeing a ton of head nodding. So reach out to your school psychs.
I think I can echo that feeling where felt like every time we logged on, it was just this, everybody's just dumping their whole life. And I felt like I did the same, where I just sat there and listened. And a lot of times I found myself not really even saying anything, but just giving them like a safe space to just unload, knowing that we, again, had built those relationships. We knew each other. We were comfortable with each other. And as I go into my summer class, I'm desperately trying to figure out how I'm going to build that relationship with them. But yeah, it's hard when it's like you want to like give them ideas and suggestions and answers, and it's like, I have nothing to say to you. I don't know how. I'm in the same boat. I don't know how to navigate this right now.
I think it's really hard to not have those verbal cues without, so I mean, at least we have the Zooms and whatnot. But without those, I mean, we're already taking away the actual touch. So like, we can't give people a hug or, put a hand on somebody's shoulder or something like that. So that's taken away from us. So as much as I would love for everybody to be able to do like these Zoom meetings and get to see those nonverbal cues. I worry about even much of our family population, with the diversity that we have in Hopkins. It's just really hard to even have that experience, right? So how do we help those families too? I mean, there's just a gap. Yeah.
Angela, when you were just talking, oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Shelley.
No, I was just going to piggyback on that too. And Naomi was talking about, families might bring stuff up in these groups, but like for me, the kids were around most of the time too. So even if a parent is struggling with something, it's really hard to know how to help them, and what do you say with their kids sitting right on their lap and they're, crying or whatever the emotion that might be. So I saw a lot of that as well.
Okay, so now you made me think of something else, and I'm trying to remember what I was first going to say, because that's really good. It's I remember, I think it was Ellen. Ellen said something about how she recommended earbuds, so you can have some of those sensitive conversations. And I was just a thought that I'm having when you're talking about it, Shelley, to really with even my conferences for preschool and stuff like that, so parents can be told something without the parent having to be concerned about the children hearing it. I don't know. I think that was really good, and that was a little tip that I'm going to carry into the summer and well into the fall. But one thing, Angela, when you were talking about that physical touch, just to share a little story that I thought was, it wasn't in ECFE, but I was just at an event for my son-in-law where he was being inducted into as a pastor to a church. And they had to be all separate, and they couldn't be together, and they were in the cars or whatever, all that stuff. And they usually do something called laying hands on them to pray for them. And what they did instead is they created like the shawl, and then a little girl cut out handprints of all various skin tones and put it on this little shawl thing. And then they just put it on him, and they said, "We can't touch you right now, but here's some of our hands." Sorry, did those we get teary? But we need to feel something. And I think that was a sweet way for that group of people to convey you're being touched. And so as you're saying that, Angela, I was just thinking, what if we came up with something in our classes that was a physical representation that they could hold in their hand, maybe something we send out at the beginning of the year and create a group norm around it of some sort. And it would be like, here we are together, somehow a hand, I don't know, just a thought, as you said it, that came to my mind. Something physical, something that represents us as a group together when you're in a when you're meeting together as a class. I don't know, just a thought.
Greta, do you have a picture of that?
Yeah,
do you?
I do. So it was like to describe it just a little bit more, it was like a piece of felt that was half a circle with the circle cut out in the middle. So, like a U maybe. So it's just small enough to go over the shoulders, and then hands print. But I can send you it. You could take it. And it just went over him while he was standing up there. And it was just a sweet presence to it from the others to him in the midst when they couldn't be there, right there. So
yeah.
Anyway, I don't know, something like that, or maybe there's a rock or a stone or something. I don't know, any other thoughts that come to mind? Please share, because I think it has I don't know, there's something to the physicality of presence. Anyway.
I think that's a great idea. I think even for our special ed families too, I know they were really struggling with all this as well, because their kiddos are so sensory driven, and I think that something like that could be really powerful.
I was thinking in the middle of a group when you're talking and something comes up that's really hard for a parent as they're sharing a way to create community. It would be, let's all just hold on to our rock, that rock right now, or let's all do something, and it's all a matter of doing it together. I don't know, just something like that. Because I think one of the parts to, like you were talking about, Naomi, is to build community when it wasn't present when we were together, and we can't be together physically right now. That is one of my concerns going into the fall. And so creating more group norms that you share amongst each other, whether that's shared language or whether that's a physical experience or practice. I think that's going to become really important in creating a sense of belonging and knowing of each other. Just those are some of my thoughts around that.
Greta, I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because one thing I touched on a tiny bit last week in terms of my own sort of question to this group, and I know that a huge question on everyone's mind is the fall, and what that's going to look like, and what school districts are going to do with plans A, B, C, and X or whatever. But I do think that inevitably, whether it's all the time or whether it's part of the time, there will be Zoom meetings for parent discussion or for parent-child time or whatever. And I think a constant thread in all of that is this idea of relationship and community. But one of the things that we know with changing formats or changing environments is sometimes the need to change group norms, or to change sort of a sense of, as a group, what now are we going to do? Like, what meaning do we hold? Like, I do this with my undergraduates in terms of like laptops and technology, and as a community in this space, what are your thoughts about using technology in ways that are respectful, but also meet your personal needs and things like that? And the challenge, one of the big challenges that we have with using technologies like this, is that they're good, but they're not great, you know? And so how do you get at that? Because you can't do the physical hug. There's a lot of nonverbals you don't see. People can turn off their video cameras. They can turn off their, you know, so any type of cue that you would get on that individual could be potentially gone. There could be disruptions, there could be noises. I sing with the choir, and there's my choir, but when my choir meets, everybody is immediately muted, except there's one woman who always misses that and just monopolizes the conversation and has completely missed the value of muting her thing. And so I'm really glad that you brought it up, because I think, and this would be a great conversation for this group, is what might be some of those norms around meeting that might change. And are there techniques through using the technology with, you know, like, do you need to use technology in ways like the hand raising, the thumbs up, use of emojis, use of the chat window, use of whiteboards or whatever, in ways that help to make the technology more representative of what you want? Yeah.
I think the other hard part about that too, though, is with districts that are able to use Zoom and things like that, as far as like the equity lens goes, if you're doing this on your phone, it's really hard to get that chat going. It's really hard to do all those other pieces. And I think a lot of our families too, their technology options are very limited. And so if they're able to join us, they're probably on their phones. And so, obviously the online isn't always ideal, but it's nice to see faces. But I think too, just trying to keep that equity lens in mind of what are parents utilizing, because I'm assuming almost all of us are on computers, if not tablets, that are fairly large screened, and it's easy to see everyone at once.
Are there other ways? So let's continue with Naomi's point, which is an excellent one. And as I'm looking at sort of the survey results from staff about sort of, next year and experiences and that sort of thing, equity and diversity and outreach to families is a real concern. It's a real interest. And who will maintain and who will drop off, and almost necessarily because, again, of technology access and things like that. So how do you maintain relationships and community if you can't use Zoom?
I think you go back to what used to be the good old days, and you pick up the phone, right? I don't know.
I think asynchronous chat and sharing photos is a really great idea. One thing that we're considering for distance learning is, have you guys seen the little Bitmojis of teachers? I don't know, maybe some of you have already done this. I know a lot of early childhood teachers did it, kindergarten, first grade. But you make a little Bitmoji of yourself, and you print it and laminate it and send it to your kids. and then your kids take you on an adventure, and they put, take a picture of you, going, in a ride in a car. Yes, Shelly has one. Oh my gosh. So cute. And then kids post what they're doing on their adventure. Shelly, tell us how you use those. I'm really, really curious about that.
The children's teacher that I support, her preschool class, she started one of the Forest Connections teachers decided to do what's called Flat Teacher, and so they made them of their whole team, and then the kids would do different things with their team and take pictures and send it in, and then they would post the pictures on Seesaw. And then us as a team, we've been taking each other lots of adventures without the kids, but it's just kind of been that's a fun way for us to stay connected too. But a lot of the families really liked it, and the kids really loved it. So they took the kids out, out in their backyard or out for dinner or, whatever, and took pictures and sent it in. So that was a way for them to stay connected with their teachers too.
Do you feel like it kind of built a sense of community among the kids too, like to see where other kids were taking the teachers?
Yeah.
I was just thinking it would be something better than what we did, which was nothing.
Yeah, and that was, we only used it in our Connections for preschool classes, and they had been together all year long. So they already had that relationship, which, is what we're talking about anyway. So I think it worked for that. Now in the fall, if it's all distance learning, I don't know how that would work, but I think it worked because the kids already knew everybody in their class. They knew their teachers really well. In this particular class, they were doing a Zoom meeting every week, so they all got to see each other anyway. So it was just kind of an addition to what this teacher was doing. And it worked out really well. It was really fun.
I think in the fall, I was listening to a webinar. I can't remember who did it now, but talking about when if we start in the fall with preschool classes and the kids don't know each other, having them in groups of 3 or 4 on a video call so that they get to know that group. So then when they do come back, they have, 4 people that they have a connection with as a way. So maybe if they did that with those little Bitmojis, but with all the little 4 groups and kind of kept them connected. I think there's lots of ways to build the connection without knowing them. It's maybe not ideal, but I think we can figure it out.
What programs do you guys use for like asynchronous chatting?
I tried using Facebook. It wasn't great. Some families just don't use Facebook, but I think I'll probably use Schoology this time around. And Parentopia is awesome, but I tossed the idea to my coordinator. She's like, "Yeah, no, we can't afford that right now." So because we're just a little district. If you're a big district, I can see how it would be just awesome. But I think Schoology is going to be I've been playing around with it. It's not great. It's not fantastic, but it'll.
So Ellen, let me just ask you, so is Schoology provided by your school district? So they already have the license, so this would just be your using.
Right. Yep.
Okay, all right. Also know that our pricing is completely in flux. Like like I said to you before, like we're still figuring it out.
I know. When I talked to my coordinator, she was like, "Well, let's not get attached to something quite yet that, we just simply
might have to pay for it." Yeah.
Like eventually, I don't want to fall in love with it and then have it torn away from me.
Which is
not about me. I'm being selfish.
Good. What other tools are you using for asynchronous? And the one thing I'd mention too is, keep in mind that when we talk about like hybrid learning or whatever, it is that use of multiple tools. It isn't just a discussion board. It could be, a discussion board. It could be a video conferencing. It could be using the Flat Teacher thing. It could be, the physical thing. It could be that, people are talking about the reverse home visits, and people, kids coming in. It could be in combination with like the nature-based stuff. So, I just remind you that when we're talking about options, that oftentimes when we talk about hybridized learning, it isn't just, like 1+1 or, a fixed kind of thing. So, So what other tools are you using for asynchronous discussion? Anyone? Are you not? Seesaw? Okay. Jennifer, so you're using Seesaw? Where are you? Looking at you. Oh, there you are. There you are, right below me.
We haven't yet, but preschool rolled it out this year and had good luck with it.
Okay.
So, but you know what I hear is that it's not as good for parents to be able to kind of respond to one another.
Right.
It's very much kind of teacher student. So
yeah,
I don't know what we'll do. We don't use anything asynchronous otherwise, other than emails and Zoom meetings.
We actually tried to roll out Moodle. I had 19 classes on Moodle, or we had 19 classes on Moodle with story times and topics and resources and discussions. And unfortunately, there just wasn't that there was no participation, not no participation, but very low participation. And where we found the most participation for ECFE was just in the Zoom meetings. And our district actually was only doing Google Meet, but because of the limitations that our families had, you know, K through 12 kids actually had a Google account. And so we were finding that we would have to put another burden on families to, you know, if they don't have kids that are in the school system already, then they don't have a Google account, or there was just a barrier. And so we were trying to eliminate as many barriers, and then Zoom increased their security. So that was helpful. And so we're right now doing Zoom, and we're moving all of our Moodle material into Canvas, because as a district, they're moving to Canvas. So that's another learning tool that we're gonna have to get to know in the fall. But yeah, we just didn't have that participation and with the discussions like you would in Moodle or something like that, which was kind of disappointing. We had one or two families that wanted to still have access to it, to take a look at what we had out there for the 6 weeks that we were distance learning. But it's different with early childhood.
I wanted to speak to the Google Hangouts Meet and the use and only being able to use Gmail accounts. That's what I understood as well at the beginning. I am hoping if we do go back to online learning in the fall, I'm hoping we can use Zoom. I just think it's more efficient teaching for adults. But for those of you that have to do the Google Hangouts Meet, I just put in some of the parents' addresses that were Hotmail or Yahoo or whatever, and they got them. So anyways.
Where our barrier is that when you use your phone, which a lot of our population does, it requires you through your phone to create a Google account. So even if, yes, they get it, but they have to still create a Google account. So that's where the barrier came in.
Yeah, I don't know what all they did, because I work with English language learners primarily. So anyways.
Yeah, I wonder if, just briefly, if there would be a value, and I don't know who would do this, probably me, but just sort of a pro and con of these different apps, you know, like, because as I talk to different people in different school districts, you know, some people are using WhatsApp, some people use Facebook, some people use Schoology, some people use Seesaw, some people are using
Remind is one, Susan, that some people are using.
Yeah, and so like which platforms do they, what do they do well with, and in terms of access, and because the challenge is like it's easier for us at the university to say to students, you have to use Canvas because we're all using Canvas and you don't have a choice, right? But in community ed, you can't do that. But the challenge is trying to play to the sort of the lowest common denominator of what platform are most people using. It's honestly hard. I mean, because you're always going to run into somebody who can't access it, or doesn't want to use it because of privacy issues or something like that. So I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer on this. I'm just reinforcing that finding an application to do the stuff is hard. And then when people do have to create one more account, I can tell you from personal experience doing this for 12 years with Parentopia, even if you say to people, create a password that is like ECFE, they're going to forget it if it's something new. So it can be really, really challenging to find one platform that works for everyone. And it may end up being that just like you're hybridizing and you're using different mechanisms or different, some is face-to-face, some is online, some is asynchronous, some is whatever, is you may also end up having 2 or 3 different applications depending on your population and, again, your interaction with kids.
The other thing, Susan, I think is a lot of these apps take a lot of data, and people are like, I don't want to keep it because of the data issue. I know WhatsApp, I've been like, wow, it takes up a lot of data. So I think that's another obstacle for people.
Yep. Yep.
Jenica, were you going to say something earlier?
I was just going to say in Lakeville, we started with Zoom, and then when Zoom was getting hacked into, our district decided we were no longer allowed to use Zoom. So we switched to WebEx, and that became our primary format. We are being trained in August for CSAF for ECFE. So we've dabbled with a lot. I did Facebook for my English language learners. I liked that format for them because most of them were already on Facebook. The only thing that was hard is that you can't mute the participants. And sometimes that's a helpful strategy when their kids are melting down or something like that in the background to be able to mute them. So Facebook works when you need it, but and like I said, I think most of my English language learners had Facebook already, so it was just tapping into what they already had. But I felt like I dabbled and explored more in this stuff in the last 6 weeks than I have ever in my life. The one thing that I think was very hard for us is when we were like, we're going to use Zoom. Now we're going to use WebEx. Just kidding. Now we're doing this. And that gets to be, I mean, as a teacher, I think you just feel like you're providing inadequacy to families. Like, we're making another change. Here's another one. And that part was frustrating for us as staff.
Jenica, did you find, what kind of support did you have? Because one of my advocacies for parenting educators and technology integration is because over and over and over what I hear is it's up to me. It's up to me on the front lines. Now I have to be tech support, and I've got to help this parent navigate their phone and their recent upgrade to their whatever so that they can get onto this application. And I didn't go to school to be an IT person.
100% it was us. We practiced with each other before we introduced it to parents. So a couple of parent eds would just all get on and we would play around with it. We would each take turns hosting each other so that we could see it from a participant standpoint and from a parent ed standpoint. But it was really just trial and error, and trying to navigate through people. I'm not usually a cell phone number share just because of privacy and wanting to keep personal and professional separate. And I was on my phone trying to help people while I was on the computer trying to help people. It was just a multifaceted thing, which I think is true for so many people right now. And it was us doing it. There was not a ton of tech support. I don't know what other districts are like within ECFE, but not even every district understands what ECFE is within their own district. And so I think there's some problems there on what that can look like too. But, and then we also did use Schoology, and I really actually liked Schoology a lot. But what I found is that parents didn't want one more place to go look for stuff. But it's great for, you can post videos. I did I read stories, like over 30 stories, and posted them on there. You can do handouts, links to it. I mean, Schoology is an abundance, so, you know, of information and resources, but it is asking parents to go to one more spot.
A hot tip for anybody who doesn't want to give out their cell phone, you can open a Google Voice account, and you can tie it to your phone, but you don't have to give out your number. So if somebody calls my Google Voice number, it rings my phone, and then it leaves a voicemail. And I think you can make phone calls from your Google Voice account. You have to put the app on your phone. Sorry, y'all, one more app. But it is a great tool to use to keep your phone number private. If any of you are like, yeah, I'd really like to, well, and we're moving buildings this summer, so I had to change and get rid of my office number so if people did need to get a hold of me. And so I changed my voicemail on my actual phone to be my Google Voice. So, and it's worked really well. I've already gotten a couple, like, you know, in summer, don't get much, but anybody who needs a phone number option.
Yeah, I'll second that it's been really slick, because I work a lot with our school readiness families, and they mostly, I found, want to communicate by text. I mean, like a lot of families, but especially those. And once I got a Google Voice, I mean, I could get responses from them really fast, and we could get back and forth really quick together. And then, you know, if I'm texting in English, they can receive it in their home language. So it was great. Yeah, I recommend it too.
I didn't know you was free. Awesome. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So I just set up like a totally new Gmail account for myself that I only used for that, and then downloaded the app for free and hooked it up to that Gmail account.
I was just getting, you got it first. So Julia over in the chat had recommended this Sally Huey.
So I think it's Hoggy. Haugie or something.
Okay.
So, and so I stumbled across it this spring, and she has this online, virtual online boot camp, she calls it. She has like boot camps during the year for teaching, and she does a lot of Reggio Emilia loose parts stuff. So she did put together this online teaching boot camp, and she goes through a bunch of different ways to do it. She gives examples, and then at the end she has a Zoom tutorial, Google Classroom. There's a bunch of them. Some I hadn't even heard of. And then she like goes through and shows you how to do it, how to set it up. And she even did a Zoom, like she did a little mini Zoom class with some kids. It's really good. It's $27, and it's like, I think it's like 60 hours of information on virtual teaching.
Wow. What a great resource. Thank you.
Yeah.
One of the things I know that we're going to we'll have to be diverse in what we're using, but I would promote people to get onto customer service and say, I would love an asynchronous chat in this program. I'd love to have added to your program. Could maybe like CSA. I'm sure these programs are, these companies are going to be growing, especially if it comes to us doing distance learning at schools in the fall, and it's really coming down. I think it's a great idea to let them know what we want, and maybe you'll see some changes too. Just a thought. I know I'm on Seesaw all the time saying, please let the parents talk to each other. Please do the, hoping, crossing fingers that they'll do something like that. And whatever you're using, if it's just missing that one little thing, maybe let them know. Because I think product development is doing a lot of stuff right now in order to adapt to the changes. So just a thought.
Yeah, and as I've said, that was one of the main things that I saw with programs like Seesaw. Nothing against it. It's just that they're really good for individual parent communication in early childhood. But for those of us that work across parents and are building community and the value of, parents networks and all of that. So we're just about out of time or end of our hour. So, but I did want to, I'm going to put a link here in the, down here, and this is a link to we did a survey of parents in St. Paul, in Anoka Hennepin, in Robbinsdale, and in St. Anthony, and in Albert Lee. And these are all school districts that were using Parentopia, and there were a couple Parentopia questions, but I kind of already know from previous work with using it, and so my larger questions, more for parents, was related to the adaptation for online stuff, and for the components of ECFE and how they felt that it went in terms of what was valuable, and then compared to, was it better than, was it worse than, whatever. So that's what that link is. I don't think that you'll see anything too revelatory on it, but it does really reinforce that the kinds of things that we do know work pretty well online in terms of information sharing. So when parents would say the communication with my teachers, or information about my program, or getting materials related to my parenting, the kind of things we talked about at the top of the hour in terms of, here's some recommended mindfulness apps or things like that. That's what the internet is really good at, right? Is that one-way push of information, and that was good. When it came to more of the hands-on interactive helping young children learn, that's obviously where parents felt that things didn't go as well. It's not a criticism, because as I read parents' comments and staff comments, it's just so wonderful to just read this heartfelt, we're just so sorry it had to be this way. I'm not, and maybe your individual mileage varies based on some grumpy parents that you had. But mostly what I am reading is that parents are just sorry that it had to be online, because they and the kids just love coming to ECFE, or they really love the interaction, or they really love their children interacting with other children, all the stuff that you already know. And so if you take a look at the results of this survey, all that does is kind of validate that. It just tells us, yeah, that's about what we suspected, and parents see it too. But I would not see it as being a criticism at all of what any of you, well, I think maybe Michelle, you're about the only one in the school district that was surveyed here, but was that I wouldn't take it as we failed in some way, or we didn't do things well. I mean, everybody has been, and I think that the parents know this. They were just being honest when we asked them, was this as good as what you get face to face? Because as a researcher looking at technology integration in parent ed, I am interested in what kinds of things we can use technology for that maybe make things more efficient, that maybe help us do outreach better. So that, and it's not saying that technology is better. It's just saying in some ways it might be better, because our work is very complex, right? I can grade students. I can grade 50 students in an undergraduate class, and it is so much more efficient for me to do that online and through a spreadsheet and that kind of thing than it would be for me to do it individually with paper. That said, my interactions, so that's all that is. And if you'd like to see that, and then, but the comments, the individual comments from parents, I haven't shared. I don't have those. Because they are individual to the school district, and I would need permission from the school district. But if you'd like to see that. So that's it for today. Thank you, everybody. This has been great. We'll be back in again next week. The room will be open. This will be our, what is it? The calming room. This will be our I don't know if it's a calm room or stimulation room, or it's a perfect room. Whatever it is, it's a perfect room, right? So the perfect room will be open again next week on Tuesday. And I will be posting the video through the playlist. So if you know anybody who couldn't be here today and they would like to hear a conversation, thank you so much for the conversation about mental health needs and, you know, some of these, just all these challenges, you know, finding, I love the idea about the little shrug with the hands on it. Ways that we can try to simulate or substitute for what we can't have in person. So any final words anyone wants to share with each other before we sign off?
I just want to say thank you for taking my question and running with it, and very valuable information. So I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Great to see you.